Welcome to today's storytelling workshop and roundtable presented by the WNBA, the Women's National Book Association. My name is Julie Fry, and I'm a member of the Greater Philadelphia chapter, and I serve as the WNBA's communications chair. I'm happy to welcome WNBA San Francisco members Kate Farrell, Joan Gelfand, and Bev Scott, who will be sharing their knowledge and talent with us today. If you're joining us on Zoom, feel free to write any questions you have in the Q&A. If you're on Facebook, you can leave questions in the comments and I'll try to look at them at the end. Anyone on Zoom will have a chance to share their own story during the workshop, and those who stick around until the end will have the chance to enter a drawing for Kate's new writing guide entitled Story Power, which provides easy to follow advice and examples for crafting compelling stories. To start off, Kate, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much, Julie. This is an exciting opportunity for WNBA in our virtual world. First, I'd like to give a shout out to WNBA and my San Francisco chapter sisters. WNBA has quite a historic legacy. You know, this month is the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote, partly because of the persistence of the suffragettes. And some New York City suffragettes founded Women's National Book Association to create a network of women of the book, because they were shut out of the men's only booksellers league. And over 100 years later, I have to say that WNBA is still fulfilling its promise to advocate for women's voice in the literary community with a variety of professionals, and to advocate for others as well. And my book, Story Power, which was just released in June, is proof of that. It has an amazing feature in that the 22 contributors who contributed stories and tips to the book, 10 of them were San Francisco chapter members. Of the 9 endorsers, 5 were San Francisco chapter members. And Brenda Knight, who is our immediate past president, is now associate publisher of Mango Publishing, helped me to propose the book and help with production and now promotion. So really, the book would not have come alive or exist without WNBA. I'm very grateful that we're here today, and I hope that you all can hear. Kim Barnes is saying her voice is very garbled. Okay, so we'll see if someone else has a garbled voice. At any rate, I want to go over the agenda very, very quickly. First, we're going to tell you stories, and that would be myself, Bev Scott, and Joan Gelfand. And we'll critique one another's stories because this is a workshop. I will then go over some basic storytelling techniques and do some screen sharing so you can see them on the screen. We will give you some prompts so that you might create and craft a story of the pandemic yourself. It's great to have a supportive community during this time to share these stories. And then we will possibly hear from some of you who are on Zoom, share a few of your stories, short. We will then go to Q&A, and finally, Julie will have a drawing of the book, one free copy. So let's get started. I'm going to tell you my story of the pandemic. Lunches in South Park. In early May, my son cut short his trip through South America and returned to the Bay Area, quarantined himself, and then decided to visit me with some emergency supplies. He took the the ferry boat from the East Bay to the city, and we agreed to meet outside my building. He phoned and I went downstairs. When I opened the door, I saw he was at least 10 feet away, and he had placed a shopping bag on the sidewalk closer to the door. He looked a little stunned and worried. He said, "Mom, are you going to wipe down those containers?" I said, I guess I will. And it seemed like there was a force field between us. We kind of air hugged and he left. Well, Mother's Day lunch was postponed due to rain, but a few days later, we agreed to walk to South Park, a few blocks away. It's a lovely oval park built in 1855, surrounded by townhouses in old San Francisco. We walked through the park and up to a new restaurant takeout that had just reopened. We ordered melted cheese sandwiches in separate boxes. And then we returned to the park where my son insisted that we sit at separate cafe tables, probably 10 feet apart. We weren't masked yet, that wasn't required, but he seemed unbending and disciplined, wanting me not to move an inch from where I was seated. We gave one another an air hug and said goodbye. In mid-June, another restaurant had opened in the park. It was a Latino cafe. We went there and ordered separately. We sat on different tables in their outdoor dining. Mike sat in the street in a parking spot. I sat on the sidewalk. He refused to move any closer. I became puzzled at how extreme he seemed to be with the mandates. We were wearing masks and were very careful. We then went into the park and we sat on separate benches across the sidewalk from each other, needing to speak up because people would walk by walking their dogs. We said goodbye. And in July, we met for the last time. We met in South Park and went back to the melted cheese place where now they had put out quite a few red picnic tables in the courtyard in front of the counter. We ordered in separate boxes. We sat at the red picnic tables. He was at one end of the picnic table. I was at the other end. We were facing each other, but not together. Other people were talking and sharing at their picnic tables, but not us. When we returned to his motorcycle, and there he was with his black leather jacket that he'd worn on the last 3 trips because he'd ridden over on the Bay Bridge. We knew we wouldn't see each other for quite a while. He was going on a bicycle tour of the Northwest. We lingered, and then all of a sudden, he breached the space. He walked forward quite a few steps and he hugged me, a squeeze on my shoulder. I blinked and he was back. We gave an air hug and said goodbye. I haven't seen him since, but he's on his bicycle somewhere where the air is clean. But what I came to realize was that every inch of the space between us was filled with his concern, his care, his protection of me. And now I know that no matter how many inches, feet, miles, or continents come between us, they will be filled with our caring love. Thank you. So we can go back to gallery and have feedback.
Great story. Should we say it, jump in or put it in the chat?
No, go ahead and jump in because it'll be in the replay.
Kate, not just your wonderful recitation, but I just felt as a mother that distance. And you didn't have to say, oh, it was so painful. You just felt it. So that was great.
Oh, that's perfect. And that's really what storytellers do and why it's different from writing. Because if you were writing, you would have to explain all that. But this is the oral tradition. And if you explain too much, it drags the story. Good comment. Bev?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I agree with Joan. The emotion of each of the meetings was very palatable, was great.
Oh, good, good. Okay, so now, Bev, I'm throwing it to you. Go.
Okay, great. Well, let me just sort of briefly introduce myself. I spent most of my career as an organization development consultant working with senior leaders, building teams and doing change management and helping leaders develop their own employees. But when my practice ramped down, I decided I wanted to pursue a family secret and find out a little more information about my grandfather. I never could quite put all the pieces together. So I decided to create a book using some of what I knew and be creative on the rest. And I, in late 2017, my book, Sarah's Secret, A Western Tale of Betrayal and Forgiveness was published. But after 2 years of book promotion, I decided I really just wanted to retire. So that's what I've been doing. And of course, I now have lots of time to be retired in the pandemic. So let me tell you my story. The title of my story is called Family Birthdays 6 Feet Apart. We have a tradition in our family of celebrating our birthdays by sharing a meal in one of our favorite restaurants. But it's the pandemic, and especially the early days of the pandemic, we're sheltering in place. And our daughter was adamant she was not going to let her 2 teenage boys infect their grandmas with COVID-19. So on March 18th, my spouse and I were sitting at home having dinner, lamenting that we were not celebrating Clayton's 18th birthday with him. And we were sharing memories, one of which was he was almost born in the hospital elevator when the iPad rang, and there was his smiling face. So we shared stories, sang happy birthday, watched him open his gifts, and heard about virtual classes in his last term in high school. And I realized that as sad as we were about not celebrating with him, that we ended up having a lovely celebration with him on FaceTime. Now it's almost April 6th. It's my daughter's 50th birthday coming up, and I'm feeling very sad that we can't have a big party for such a big day. We got an email from one of her friends who said that she wanted to organize a gathering on the sidewalk out in front of Darby's house. Could we come? Of course, we said yes. So on the day, we arrive early. We park up the block out of sight of the front windows of the house. It's San Francisco, cool and rainy. And we wave silently to friends as they begin to arrive with, birthday signs, bottles of wine, gifts, balloons, and we each take our place on the sidewalk marked 6 feet apart. When most of us are there, Darby's friend climbs the steps, rings the doorbell, and then runs back down to her place before Darby comes to the door. When the door opens, we all yell, "Surprise! Happy birthday!" And you could just tell from Darby's face how happy she was and how surprised to have a lot of her friends standing out on the sidewalk in the rain, singing happy birthday to her. One at a time, we walked up on the steps and set gifts on the steps. And then we returned to our place on the sidewalk, and under umbrellas, despite masks, we sipped a little wine and tried to visit 6 feet apart. As I drove home, I was really happy that we were able to have such a fun surprise for her birthday. A little over a week later, it's March 15th, our youngest grandson, Jeremy's birthday. This time, we park out front and text Darby, "We're here." We look up the street and watch 3 teenage boys skateboard driveway. Jeremy waves. The boys find a place on the steps 6 feet apart. And the garage door opens, and at the front of the garage is a table spread with dim sum, Jeremy's favorite meal. So we help ourselves one at a time. The boys sit on the steps. We sit in folding chairs on the sidewalk with our backs to the people who might be walking by. And we enjoy our dim sum, all sitting 6 feet apart. When the homemade banana cream pie, again, Jeremy's favorite, is brought out with candles, he blows out his candles and we all sing happy birthday. I'm sitting there thinking, this is another very lovely family birthday, very different from our tradition. Now, we'll go forward a few months, and it's July 28th, and it's my spouse Courtney's 70th birthday. And of course, we've all been very disappointed that we're not going to be able to celebrate this milestone together. And then I realized that the restaurants are open if they have outdoor seating. So I call Delancey Street, which is one of our favorite casual restaurants in San Francisco, and make a reservation and for a large table for us. Invite Darby and the boys to join us. And we gather to celebrate. We're practicing social distance. We're wearing our masks. And we have dinner. We tell stories. We laugh a lot. We have a great time. When the waiters bring out dessert with candles and sing happy birthday, we are all laughing when our youngest grandson turns to Courtney and says, "I'm really sorry, I can't give you a real hug, but happy birthday anyway." So I realized, we've really got this family birthday down during the pandemic. We've turned our disappointment into celebration with gratitude for our family, our love, and our health. But we wondered, would we be celebrating 6 feet apart with no real hugs when it's my birthday at the end of December. Thank you.
Mm. That's really something to wonder about, isn't it?
Yes, I'm assuming we probably will be at this point.
You know, I think what was interesting to me about your story, well, two things. One, I really enjoyed your rocking chair. I thought that made it interesting and sort of comfortable to see you rocking with that nice blanket. And the other part that was interesting is that your story was in the present tense.
Yes. Yeah. I made that as a conscious choice to be in the present. Yeah.
And that sort of helped you. I mean, it's difficult. It is more difficult to tell a story in the present tense because it doesn't have the same rise of action, but it puts you in a more personal relationship to the action. Joan, do you have a comment?
You know, I enjoyed the coloring in of the difference between each birthday and the details, you know, one on the iPad, one on the front steps. It was great. It was great.
Right. And the conclusion was really terrific too. You know, what's going to happen next? All right, Joan, you are on.
Oh, hey, thanks. So my name is Joan Gelfand. I'm so glad to see so many people here. Welcome. And I am a past president of the San Francisco chapter of WNBA and a past president of National. I have been in retirement from WNBA duties for a while. I'm the author of 3 poetry collections, and right now I am promoting my brand new novel that just came out 2 weeks ago, my first novel called Extreme, which is set in a Silicon Valley startup. And the reviews are starting to come in. I was interviewed on NPR last week, so things are getting a little exciting. And here's my story, and it's tied into the book. It's called The Haircut. So here was my problem. I had my book coming out and I needed a brand new, I will show you the picture in a moment. I needed a new headshot because when I looked at all my headshots, they were about 5 years old. Well, unfortunately, I put it off so long that now we were in shelter in place. So the months kept ticking by. March to April, April to May. The book was coming out in July. It had to go to the printer in June. What was I going to do? It was May. And we were completely isolated. I mean, my husband and I just not seeing the family, not seeing anyone. So I get a text from my hair cutter who says, you know, we were supposed to open the salon in June, but now the governor says we cannot open the salon. I've decided I'm going to cut people's hair at their homes if you would like. And so I had to really think about it. I was like, well, I really need a haircut. I really need to get this haircut for this headshot, you know, because we went into shelter in place and I already hadn't gotten a haircut for months. So I surveyed my friends, you know, what do you think? Should I do this? And people said, look, if you have it outside and you both wear masks, I think you're pretty good. And that was even from some of my most rigorously, as Kate says, you know, following the protocols to the inch, right? And I thought, okay, I'm going to risk it. So the day of the haircut, as people have mentioned, San Francisco is not always sunny and beautiful. We have a lot of fog and gray and cold. But on the day of the haircut, it was gorgeous, sun, warm. And my hair cutter comes and he's got his mask and I sit outside. Don't forget, I also had to get my hair dyed. And this is the part that Kate really wanted me to talk about, which was, well, how did you do that? So we sat down with the apron or the cape. He put the dye on, and then I had the brilliant idea during the night, oh, I don't want him to come in the house to shampoo my hair. I'll go in the shower. So he dyes the hair, it sits on for 40 minutes. I go in the house, he's outside. I have to go in the shower, do the whole, get the dye out, put the conditioner in that makes the color set. Then I go back out in my dry clothes and he cuts my hair. But let me just say this, very, very angry because I hadn't been that close to another person beside my husband for months. And I didn't, I just felt like I was taking a huge risk. And afterwards, I just counted the days until it was 5 days. And I knew, okay, I didn't get COVID from this guy. And I got the haircut. I met my photographer. She wanted to do it on the Stanford campus. Let me get a picture if I can show you. And the photographer and I were social distancing. And here's the picture in this colonnade at the Stanford Quad. And everything worked out fine, but it was not a happy experience. It was really stressful. And, you know, it was just kind of like I had to do what I had to do.
Thank you, Joan. I really appreciated the extra effort that you went through to make that happen. And your hair is gorgeous. It really worked out well. You know, these are the crazy things we're doing now. And I think it helps to share them with one another and kind of get a feeling for, you know, how are we coping? How are we managing? And what are we doing to make things work, basically? Yeah. So now I'm going to Julie.
Well,
I'm going to
just a minute. I'd like to give her some feedback.
Sorry,
Joan, I loved it because I could identify, I've been struggling for months, not able to have a haircut, and I wear my hair quite short. And so I finally gave in and cut it myself, and I could do the front. The back looks terrible, so you guys don't get to see the back of my head. So it was great to hear your story, and I do think, Kate, that it's so important to share our stories of it. It also brings in a little humor at a time when we have a lot of anxiety.
Right, that's true. And also I think Joan was sort of rocking in her desk chair a little bit, made it kind of homey as well. You know, stories are really part of the front porch. They're for everyone to, you know, if we could get together, this is our porch. These are our porch stories.
We have a Zoom porch.
We have a Zoom porch. I'm going to try this rocking a little bit. But I wanted to rush because I wanted to get back to the techniques. So Julie, I'm going to do a screen share if that's okay with you.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay, can you all see this wonderful banner photograph?
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is my blog, storytellingforeveryone.net. The banner is our illustrious former San Francisco chapter board members when we were planning a live event, and they're so wonderful to be excited to share Story Power postcards. This is a blog post that you can go back to. I'm going to just go over it very quickly, but notice if you want to come back, it would be the post 7 Steps to Storytelling, which is here, but also, of course, in the book. But I'm only going to go through the first three. Selecting the story you want to tell, we all worked with a theme, but for a story selection to really work so that people want to listen and want to know the ending, it should have these basic elements. So the setting is important. We all had a sense of many different settings in Bev's case. And in Joan's case, there was a clear home setting. The characters are good if they're identifiable and clear. Conflict and tension, we know what that is because we're sharing that tension together. The narrative arc doesn't have to be an epic story. It could be simple anticipation. As Joan was experienced, what is going to happen? Will I be exposed? It's just basic tension. Sensory images, dialogue is great. And most importantly, the resolution. We felt there was resolution in all the stories. The next thing to do is to frame the story you selected in sections. So I hope you had the feeling that neither one of us memorized our story. We had a sense of its structure and we were telling it straight to you so that it could be different each time. There's a number of ways to do it. You can outline, use keywords, draw a storyboard like they do in the movies. You can use index cards like cue cards. Whatever form you use, you are now determining the shape of the story. Number three is really important because the storytelling techniques I use are not theatrical. They don't depend upon grand gestures or staging or prompts. It's the inner concentration, the fact that you're visualizing the settings, the characters, and the action for us. They're true stories, they're authentic, and we're able to visualize them because you're visualizing them. So those are the three to look at, and there are more. But right now, because I want you to see a picture of my nameless son. There he is, looking very stern. That was the last visit. He was willing to pose, but you can see, I realized looking at it that he is concerned, that there's so much uncertainty in his young life. So this is the simple outline. The only, I didn't keep to all these details. I thought of some and not others today. But one thing I think is important when you're going to tell the story, to memorize the first sentence, just to get started. And the last one, because the resolution is so important, because you want to wrap up for your listeners, it's important to get that nailed. So sometimes I will definitely memorize the last couple of sentences. So those are the basic techniques. I hope that makes sense to you. And I'm going to give you a few prompts, and hopefully those of you who are on Zoom will be inspired. We're right on schedule so that you will be inspired to tell your own story of the pandemic today. There are 3 prompts. The first one, what incident during the pandemic was surprising or unusual? It could be a series of incidents over time, kind of benchmarks the way that Bev and I told our stories. Or it could be a single incident, the way that Joan told her story. Another prompt. What happened during this time that presented a challenge that you overcame? And finally, what was your most memorable event, live or virtual, during this time? Be sure to select an incident, not just a vignette that just, is a quick flashback, but something that really builds. And, our stories aren't that polished. So whatever has a beginning, a building arc of action and a rising tension that makes us wonder, how is this going to work out? And then a final conclusion. So we're going to give you a few minutes to think about it. And while we're doing that, I wonder if we just take a few minutes. Julie, I was going to ask you, how many people do we have on Zoom?
We have 15 attendees who are still present. So if you want to participate, we encourage you to do so.
Okay, so we're going to be quiet for a few minutes, and hopefully you're going to be jotting down just quick outlines for your story. Now, I've told stories and trained just the general public recently at San Francisco Public Library branches and at Mechanics Institute. And even with a short period of time, I'm always amazed at the variety and the depth and the interesting material that comes back. While you're taking the time to reflect and write an outline, but remember, this isn't to be read, it's to be told. So that's the important thing, not to read a piece, but to tell from an outline. This is storytelling. It certainly has relevance to writing, but we want you to be able to tell your story to us. I want to give a shout out to the WNBA contributors who aren't here. I don't know if they are, but the ones who aren't presenting with us. Those who contributed stories and tips to the book: Cheryl Bizet-Boutte, B. Bowles, Simona Carini, Betsy Fassbinder, Humaira Gilzai, Jing Lee, Mary Mackey, and Linda Joy Myers. A pretty amazing group. Endorsers from San Francisco chapter for the book: Nina Amir, Martha Conway, Mary Jo McConaughey, Linda Joy Myers, and Mary Volmer.
If you would like to participate, if you could write your name in the chat so we have an idea of how many people would like to read, that would be great. Thank you.
Do you see someone?
It looks like CB and Alan. Go ahead, Chris, and take your moment.
Julie and Kate, I think there's Jill Bronfman also.
Rothman.
Yeah.
She wants to read a piece and I would rather have it told. So if Jill can tell it, not read.
Yeah.
Jill, if you'd like to do that, if you could just let us know, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be.
And Phoebe and Alan, are you ready to go or would you like a few more minutes?
We should have, the music like a game show, right?
All right. It looks like Jill is ready to go. So let me quickly come over here and
Great.
promote you, Jill.
We're right on time. I was thinking we'd start telling at 4:45.
So Jill, I'm going to promote you to panelist. You have the option of whether or not you would like video shown or if you just want to speak, that's fine too.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. Ready to hear the story? No one covered baking, and this is an important part of the pandemic. So I'm about to tell you a baking story. It's called Ordering the Flour. Whenever I've started a baking project, the first thing I do is gather the ingredients on the counter. The flour, the sugar, the butter, the eggs. Sometimes everything is perfect. I have everything I need. Lay it out. Sometimes I need to make substitutions, right? We all sometimes have to be a little bit flexible. That's where the adventure begins. I rarely stop to go to the store, order more supplies, or borrow something from my neighbor who makes meringues that can fly. Instead, I wing it. In March, though, we did not have any flour. Nobody had any flour, right? Not just any baking flour, but no flour at all. No corn, no buckwheat, no coconut, almond, or soy flour. Even the maca powder, I don't even know what it is, but we didn't have any. Really, any of those work for me, and as long as my children don't see the packages, they'll assume the result is made with real flour, and they'll eat the cookies. This time, though, I needed to make a confession. I told my daughter there was no flour. Normally, she'd be in charge of tasting rather than cooking. She was motivated this time, though. She was activated, actually, by this unusual challenge. And did I mention she's a teenager? She began the online research. You guessed it, that's the plot twist, except for the actual twisting of the dough, which is more of a surprise. She ordered 2 5-pound bags of flour directly from the mill. She figured it out online, of course, as teenagers do. And they arrived sometime in April. The day after the flour arrived, she began baking. This has never happened before. I vacated the kitchen. And I waited. I waited for hours. I was afraid to go in. She didn't really understand that bread rising makes it much, much bigger. So we had a mammoth braided challah. We broke out the measuring tape and we took photos. The challah was pretty much all anyone ate for dinner that night. Thanks.
Yay! That is wonderful. I loved your expression, how you invited us into your story, into your home. It was terrific. Great job. And I could tell you were just glancing over there quickly just to make sure you stayed right with the text. Great oral presentation. Joan? Unmute yourself.
Of course, sorry. I love the setup of the problem, as you outlined, Kate, of setting up the tension. And the tension is no flour. And, the resourcefulness that all of us are being faced with, right? In this pandemic, like either your daughter finding it online, or me having a haircut outside, or dim sum on the sidewalk. It's all resourcefulness. We're, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So, there you go. It was great. It was lovely.
But so Bev, did you have a reaction?
Well, there were a couple of your expressions I thought were just delightful. One about, did I tell you she was a teenager? And secondly, that you vacated, and your expressions with your hands, that you vacated the kitchen. That was great. Loved it.
You really were a very intimate storyteller. You're a natural. You wanted us to be part of your story, and some of those asides that Bev just mentioned helped that happen. Great details as well. Okay, Julie.
All right, next up we have CB. So give me 1 second.
Oh, I forgot to ask Jill, where are you? Where do you live, and what chapter are you in?
San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you, Jill. All right, CB, are you ready? I've promoted you to panelist, so you can choose whether you'd like to be seen or if you'd just like to talk. CB and Alan, welcome.
So this is only going to be 5 minutes because we're running close to the end of the hour. So keep track of the time.
CB and Alan, we just need you to unmute. Do you see the button where you can unmute? If you look at the bottom to the left of the panel, there we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Okay. Hi. We're CB and Alan. We're in San Francisco, and our story is worry about how we're going to get food during the pandemic. So anyway, it starts off, we want to get food delivered to the house, and we contact Safeway, no luck. We contact Whole Foods, no luck, and we're worried. We don't want to go out, so what do? And I used to get Farm Fresh in the past, so we contact them, and it turns out they can help us. And Alan, do you want to share about Farm Fresh and picking out your own food?
Well, at first I was totally against it, because when it comes to food, I'm an elitist. Nobody can select food like I can. Not only the types of food, but the individual items. Not that tomato, that one. So, and the other thing being that Carolyn loves to eat out. I don't. And so what were we going to do? Well, as it turned out, Farm Fresh was a game changer, was it not?
Absolutely, Alan. Yeah, it's wow. Yeah, we got on board with Farm Fresh and no contact delivery, organic produce, and it's like, wow, this is like the best food we ever had. And we were eating healthy before, and well, Alan's a chef extraordinaire, and it got even better.
Mm-hmm. And one of the best things about it, if there's any issue with any piece of fruit or vegetable, we can self-credit. We simply go online, indicate which item was unsatisfactory, and we are automatically credited with the cost of that item. So I'm impressed.
Me too. We just love it. And so all our worries, to end it, there was nothing to worry about. Things are even better.
I
You
agree.
agree? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. I love that.
Thank you.
I love seeing you two.
Oh, thank you.
So I won't go first. Bev, what did you like about the duet, the team sharing story? I think
I love the duet. I love the fact that you were both sharing and that you contrasted, Alan, you were contrasting the difference in your tastes and what you liked. And so you contrasted that, and then you told us it all worked out and it was even better. It was great.
yeah.
Thank you, Bev.
And also I love Joan, there you are. Did you have
I liked the details of, Alan being a great chef and that this was really posing a problem to you. Like, where we don't want to go shopping, we don't want to go in the stores, we have a problem. So you set up the tension and then you resolved it. So it's great. It's great.
Thank you, Joan.
And my final thought is the gravitas that Alan brought to the situation. It made it so real. It made it serious. It made us want to, really appreciate the moment. And, sort of that extra subtext of serious issue. And then, it's balanced with CB, who's like a little fairy who's ready to appreciate every little drop of experience.
Oh, thank you, Kate.
That was great. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. So I think it's time for Q&A. No more stories. We had 3 wonderful stories. Julie?
Hello, I'm back. If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and either write them in the chat or the Q&A. And while you do that, I have a quick screen I'm going to share.
Oh, great. And we're coming up for the drawing as well.
Yes. So if you want to enter for the drawing too, you can put your name in the chat box and I will enter you for the drawing. So this is Kate's book, Story Power. We encourage you all to go out and get it wherever you buy your books. And then we have, Joan's 2 most recent books. You can be a winning writer, the 4 C's system to author success, craft, commitment, community, and confidence. And her newest release, which just came out, Extreme, which is her first novel, I believe, right, Joan?
Yes, that's right.
Very exciting. And then Bev's book is Sarah's Secret, a Western tale of betrayal and forgiveness. Ooh, Bev. Sounds intriguing. Obviously, you can buy those books wherever you'd like. We do encourage you to buy on Bookshop to help out independent book stores. Bookshop is a website that people can have stores and people can have a storefront for, and then 10% of sales on their storefront go to independent bookstores. So we do have a bookstore front. This is the address, and you can find all of our member authors' books under the WNBA members' books.
And Julie, doesn't WNBA receive some income from that as well?
For anything bought through our storefront, we do get 10%. So that helps us to have events like this. So go forth and buy all the books.
And I think that's one of the questions that's down here on the Q&A. It says, where is the best place to find each of your books? So I think that's your answer.
You can also, IndieBound is another, so Bookshop is affiliated with the American Booksellers Association, but it's not run by the American Booksellers Association, but IndieBound is. So if you like to support IndieBound, which will help you find your local independent bookstore, that's a great way to do it too. Obviously, we are proponents for indie bookstores, but you can buy it wherever.
So,
And I do ask that if you do buy a copy of any of our members' books, that you do the kindness of leaving them a review, because reviews are really helpful for our authors. So whether you buy your book on Amazon or if you're a Goodreads member, please do that kindness for our authors.
okay, I think that's it. Chris for the drawing.
All right.
Oh, Chris wants to be in the drawing.
All right.
Evelyn wants to be in the drawing.
I am not seeing that. Where did it go?
Okay,
There we go. I see it. Okay.
And Nita wants to be in the drawing. And there is a question from Kathleen Mellon. I love literary prose. Is there a place for literary techniques in storytelling? I'll just say very, very quickly that storytelling, if we weren't in a virtual world, is a live delivery. And yes, some techniques work, but if it's too literary, the telling becomes encumbered. Really, if you're visualizing, is the most important thing. If you're visualizing the events, the story, setting, characters, taking on the dialogue realistically, as Jill did, your audience fills in all the details. They're visualizing at the same time that you're telling. So I would say economy of words is best for telling. And, I've seen people read from scripts, and then it's more like oral reader's theater, which is something different.
All right. I normally use a fun little wheel that picks the names, but of course my computer's saying that I can't use it today because I need to update my flash drive or my flash. So I just I just wrote down the names, and I'm pulling a name right now, and that is Nita. That doesn't look like your name, but that's my scribble.
Nita.
Actually, I have your email address, I believe, but if you just want to email me at communications@WNBA-books.org, and then I can send Kate your email. That way we can contact you and find out where to send the book.
Right.
So congratulations.
I think I have Nita's email as well.
Okay.
Nita, congratulations. I just want to mention one last thing. Mechanics Institute is also sponsoring a storytelling virtual workshop. It'll be a little more formal. We will be presenting with sponsorship from Mechanics Institute and San Francisco Writers Conference. It's on the Mechanics Institute website. There is a fee for members and non-members. It's already filling up. So if you want to continue to learn more, it will be a little bit more formal, as I said. And we will be selling the book. It's not required, but we're selling it through Alexander Book Company, which is right around the corner from Mechanics Institute. So I'm really excited about today because I get to kind of practice a little bit on such a wonderful, friendly, supportive group of WNBA members. Yay, WNBA.
There we go. So I just want to thank all of you for participating today. It's been a wonderful event. I think it's been a lot of fun, and it gives a nice sense of camaraderie for all of us to share our experiences through this very interesting time. For those of you, if you didn't get to share, but you'd like to tell a story, if you want to take a video and then email me at communications@WNBA-books.org, which I just put in the chat. I can put that up on social media though, if you send me a video.
Wow, you are awesome, Julie.
Yes, Julie, I'm so impressed, and thank you so much for being our host today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's been lovely to meet all of you in person. Well, ish. as in person-ish as we can right now, right?
Yes.
So I just have one more screen to share about our upcoming events. These are the upcoming events we have throughout August, throughout our country. And August 6th, I forgot to write that it's hosted by our Atlanta group, but our Atlanta chapter will be having, excuse me, I'm totally messing up. Kramer Books reading group with WNBA, that's for our DC group. So that'll be tomorrow. And then August 8th will be hosted by Atlanta. They're having Love in the Time of Corona, and they have multiple romance authors who are gathering to speak. On August 12th, Create Your Online Style to Sell Yourself and Your Book with Judy Baker is hosted by WNBA San Francisco. And then San Francisco is also going to be having a virtual networking goals for writers workshop or webinar. So the registration information is on the San Francisco website. And then every month we gather on the last Tuesday of the month for the Book Woman Book Club discussion. And this month we'll be discussing Haben, which is the story of Haben Girma, who is the first deaf-blind woman who conquered Harvard Law. So I hope you are all able to join us. If you aren't members of the WNBA, I hope you consider joining the WNBA. We were founded in 1917 and we've been going strong since. So here's our website, and you can always learn more about our organization if you sign up for our Bookwoman emails. So after all of that, thank you ladies again, and thank you for all who attended. We hope to see you at upcoming WNBA events. And ladies, thank you again so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Julie.
you. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.